A beautiful spring evening in Radnor Township, Pennsylvania. The streets were quiet, lined with manicured lawns and stately homes. It was the kind of neighborhood where tragedy felt unthinkable. But on April the 23rd, 2018, the silence was broken by two sharp gunshots. A neighbor, startled by the sound, rushed toward a brick home on Lowry's Lane. Through the kitchen window, he saw something chilling. A woman lying face down on the floor, her keys still clutched in her hand as if she never had the chance to set them down. Moments later, another discovery inside the house revealed that this was no ordinary crime scene. Two lives had been lost, and the truth behind it all was far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. At the center of the story was Meredith Chapman, a young, ambitious woman whose future seemed limitless. She was just 33 years old, a rising star in politics and higher education, full of energy, optimism, and an infectious smile that lit up every room. But behind that brightness, her life was about to collide with someone else's in a way that would end in betrayal, heartbreak, and murder. If you're a fan of true crime and criminal investigations, you won't want to miss our new book, The Ultimate Book of Serial Killers: 180 Files of the World's Most Notorious Murderers, now available on Amazon. You can also purchase the PDF version directly from our website for instant download. You'll find the link in the video description and in a pinned comment. Now, let's dive into today's case. Meredith Chapman was born on January 31, 1985 in Newark, Delaware. From a young age, she stood out for her energy, her creativity, and an unstoppable ambition that seemed to guide every step she took. After graduating from the University of Delaware, she quickly began making her mark. First as a television reporter, where she spent 2 years in front of the camera, learning to tell stories with clarity and conviction. Soon after, she returned to her alma mater, this time not as a student, but as the director of its marketing department. In addition to leading a team, she also stepped into the classroom as a lecturer, inspiring the next generation of students. Her drive extended beyond academics. Meredith was passionate about politics, working as a communications and external relations manager in the House of Representatives. By the age of just 32, she had already run for a Senate seat in Delaware. Although she didn't win, the campaign earned her respect and recognition, landing her a place on Delaware's prestigious 40 Under 40 list of rising leaders. On social media, Meredith projected the same vitality she carried in real life. Her posts were filled with smiles, moments of joy, and snapshots of her vibrant world. To her followers, she seemed unstoppable. She had the career, the presence, and the determination to keep climbing. In 2009, Meredith married Luke Chapman, a local councilman, and she wholeheartedly supported his political ambitions. But as the years passed, their relationship began to change. What had once been a partnership built on shared goals and affection became strained, and by the time 2017 arrived, the marriage was showing deep cracks. It was in that same year that Meredith crossed paths with a man who would alter the course of her life forever. His name was Mark Gerardo. She met him while interviewing candidates for the role of creative director at the university. At first, Mark hesitated. Meredith was 15 years younger, and she would be his supervisor if he took the position. But the connection between them was undeniable. Meredith's intelligence and confidence drew Mark in. He admired her professionalism and was captivated by her charisma. Before long, the boundaries between boss and colleague began to blur. When she suggested they grab a drink one evening, he agreed without hesitation. What started as a simple outing stretched into hours of conversation, laughter, and personal confessions. Mark revealed painful memories about the loss of his parents and his brother, things he had rarely shared before. Despite being married to Jen Eyre, his high school sweetheart from South Carolina, Mark allowed himself to grow closer to Meredith. The chemistry between them was undeniable, and soon they found themselves in a relationship that neither had planned but both felt drawn to. As Mark settled into his new life in Delaware, living apart from Jen Eyre, the two women who loved him remained unaware of just how drastically their lives were about to change. By the time Jen Eyre finally joined him in early 2018, she immediately sensed that something was different. The man she had known for decades seemed distant, detached, and distracted. In her heart, she feared the truth. Another woman had entered their lives. Mark and Jen Eyre Girardeau were an unlikely pair from the start. Where Jen Eyre was bold, outspoken, and eager to explore the world, Mark was quiet, reserved, and more comfortable in the background. Their differences, however, seemed to complete each other. From their first months together, there was an undeniable chemistry. They fell in love quickly, convinced that they were destined to share their lives. In October 1993, the couple exchanged vows, deciding that their marriage would be built on companionship rather than children. Instead, they devoted themselves to one another, traveling often, enjoying long hikes, and doting on their dogs. For years, they appeared to live in harmony. Like any couple, they had arguments, but they always seemed to find a way forward. But when a major financial crisis struck, the stability they had built began to crack. Both worked in marketing, yet as money grew tight, the arguments became more frequent. Jen Eyre, known for her strong-willed personality and insistence on having the final word, clashed with Mark's quieter temperament. The situation grew worse after Jen Eyre lost her job and struggled to find new work. The setback weighed heavily on her, and she sank into a depression that left her feeling trapped. Years later, when the couple moved from South Carolina to Delaware, the distance between them was no longer just emotional. Mark had already started a new chapter in his career, accepting a position at the University of Delaware. But when Jen Eyre joined him in January 2018, she noticed something different. Mark seemed detached, distracted, a stranger in their own marriage. Suspicion took root. Mark often spoke of his new boss, Meredith Chapman, an ambitious, charismatic woman who was not only younger but also admired by many. Though Jen Eyre confronted her husband, asking if there was more between them, Mark denied it. He insisted it was nothing more than a professional relationship. On the surface, Jen Eyre accepted his word, but inside, doubt gnawed at her. Unable to shake her instincts, she hired a company to monitor his phone, gaining access to his texts, calls, and photos. She even managed to record private conversations between Mark and Meredith, confirming her worst fears. On Valentine's Day 2018, Jen Eyre revealed to Mark that she knew the truth. This time, he could not deny it. He admitted everything. His growing closeness with Meredith had turned into love. For Jen Eyre, the confession was devastating. She had believed her husband was going through a midlife crisis. Perhaps seeking temporary excitement. The reality that he wanted a future with someone else was crushing. Mark suggested they try couples therapy, though his intentions were far from hers. Jennair wanted desperately to save the marriage. Mark, however, was using the sessions to be sure it was over. By the third meeting, he had made up his mind. He told her that once he secured his permanent residency in Delaware, scheduled for May, he would file for divorce. Meanwhile, Meredith was making changes in her own life. She ended her 9-year marriage to Councilman Luke Chapman. Their separation was amicable. They both admitted their relationship had run its course. With that chapter closing, Meredith looked ahead to a new beginning. When the University of Delaware learned about Meredith Chapman's relationship with her colleague, Mark, both knew their time there was coming to an end. Quietly, they began searching for new opportunities. By April of 2018, Meredith had been hired by Villanova University as the Assistant Vice President for Marketing and Creative Services. Excited for a fresh start, she moved first, renting a house in Radnor, Pennsylvania, a wealthy, quiet suburb just outside of Philadelphia. Mark planned to join her soon. Back in Delaware, Jennair Girardo was unraveling. She had uprooted her life to follow her husband north, only to find herself alone in a new city, isolated from friends and family. The betrayal cut deeply. She had lost her job, her sense of stability, and now her marriage. Yet despite the heartbreak, she clung to hope that Mark might change his mind and come back to her. She agreed to sign the divorce papers only on the condition that he continue living with her and spending time together until May. Walks, dinners, forced moments of closeness. It was her way of holding on. But suspicion still consumed her. She had already uncovered their affair by monitoring his phone and recording conversations. When Mark discovered yet another listening device hidden in his jacket, his frustration exploded. The confrontation ended with broken furniture and harsh words. Shaken, Jennair threatened to end her life, and for the first time, Mark realized how fragile her mental state had become. He urged her to see a psychiatrist, and she did. To him, it seemed like she was finally beginning to accept the end of their marriage. Then came April 23, 2018. That morning, Meredith shared a photo on Instagram, beaming in front of Villanova University. Her caption celebrated the new beginning she was so eager to embrace. That evening, Mark was scheduled to meet Jennair for dinner to discuss their divorce. He arrived at the restaurant first, then came a message from his wife. She was running late. Minutes later, another text. She wouldn't be coming at all and told him to head home. What followed was even more unsettling. A photo lit up Mark's phone. Garbage scattered across the ground, a used condom among the refuse. He instantly recognized the location. It was Meredith's trash. More messages appeared. Jennair wrote that he had destroyed her life and that she hoped he would never find happiness again. The final words she sent were chilling. A goodbye. Panic set in. Mark rushed to Meredith's home, convinced his wife had gone there. Through a window, he saw a devastating sight. Meredith lying face down on the kitchen floor, blood staining her leg. She wasn't moving. She wasn't breathing. Staggering inside, he realized the worst had already happened. As he turned, he noticed another body sprawled in the living room, dressed entirely in black. In that terrible moment, it became clear. It was Jennair. At first, investigators were unsure what had taken place. With 2 lives lost and no weapon in sight, they considered whether a third person had carried out the attack. But as officers moved Jennair's body, they found the gun beneath her. It had been fired twice. What unfolded in that quiet Pennsylvania town was a story of ambition, betrayal, and heartbreak, a love triangle that ended in a double tragedy. After the devastating discovery inside Meredith Chapman's Radnor home, police brought Mark Gerardo in for questioning. Shaken and grief-stricken, he told investigators everything he knew. He handed over his phone, showing the string of messages Jenner had sent him while he sat waiting at the restaurant. Messages that began with excuses about being late and ended with a chilling farewell. Piece by piece, detectives reconstructed the day of April 23, 2018. Surveillance cameras placed Jenner in Radnor by early afternoon. At 2:20 p.m., she was captured stopping at a nearby gas station. Later, she parked a rented vehicle close to Meredith's house, an SUV she had quietly reserved 10 days earlier. From there, she sifted through Meredith's trash and slipped inside the home, hiding as she waited for her husband's new partner to return. Sometime between 5 and 6 p.m., Meredith came back from her first day at Villanova University. She never even made it past the kitchen. Investigators believe Jenner ambushed her the moment she stepped through the door, shooting her once before turning the gun on herself. The text Jenner had sent Mark now read like a tragic confession. In addition to the goodbye, she told him that he had destroyed her life and wished him nothing but misery. As detectives searched the scene, more details emerged. In the rental car, they found binoculars, ammunition, gloves, and earplugs, evidence that the attack had been carefully planned. A neighbor later confirmed seeing a woman lurking outside Meredith's home days before, watching the property through binoculars. The discoveries inside the Girardot's own home painted an even darker picture. Hidden within the lining of Mark's jackets were tiny listening devices, carefully sewn in place by Jenner. Police uncovered 12 notebooks filled with her handwritten transcripts of the conversation she had secretly recorded. They also found a separate bank account used solely to purchase surveillance equipment, lockpicking tools, spyware for computers, GPS trackers she attached to both her husband's car and Meredith's vehicle. Tellingly, she had nicknamed the device on Mark's car Lying Jerk, while Meredith's tracker carried a far more vicious label. Evidence showed that on March 20th, weeks before the tragedy, Jenner had purchased the firearm used in the attack. She practiced at a local shooting range multiple times, including just hours before the fatal evening in Radnor. Among her belongings, Mark discovered a letter she had written in the weeks leading up to that day. In it, Jenner reflected on her life as a wife and partner, admitting that she once found deep fulfillment in caring for her family. But her words took a darker turn. She wrote that Mark and Meredith could not be allowed to get away with what they had done, that she was owed respect, and that she needed to take control. Investigators later learned that Jenner had even turned to neighbors for help. On the Nextdoor app, she asked for recommendations, first for a divorce attorney and later for a marriage counselor. To the outside world, she appeared to be searching for a way forward. Her psychiatrist later confirmed that she showed no alarming signs during their sessions, even speaking about starting over and leaving Delaware behind. Yet beneath the surface, she was living with deep pain and had been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder brought on by her husband's betrayal and the looming divorce. By the end of the investigation, one truth was undeniable. Jenner's actions were not impulsive. They were deliberate, planned, and tragically irreversible. For years, Jenner had quietly battled depression. In the aftermath of the tragedy, a specialist who later reviewed her case suggested she may also have exhibited traits of borderline personality disorder, an illness marked by deep emotional turmoil and instability. To those around her, however, she appeared to be coping. Even Mark believed she was beginning to accept the idea of divorce. But beneath that surface, Jenner's pain and jealousy were festering into something far darker. In the years since, Mark has carried a heavy burden of guilt. He admits he often wonders if Meredith would still be alive had he made different decisions, if he had ended his marriage sooner, or if he had recognized the severity of Jenner's mental decline. He says he has found a way to forgive his wife for the pain she inflicted on him personally. But what he cannot forgive is the choice she made to take another woman's life. Haunted by grief, Mark sold nearly everything he owned and eventually relocated to San Diego, where he found work with a luxury hotel chain. He also turned to writing, publishing a book about the case, and starting a blog dedicated to raising awareness about mental health, betrayal, and the devastating consequences of silence. The story of Meredith Chapman's murder has continued to echo far beyond Radnor. Some voices blame Mark, pointing to his affair and questioning whether his decisions set the tragedy in motion. Others condemn Meredith for her relationship with a married man, and many see Jenner as both a perpetrator and a victim, an anguished woman whose untreated mental health struggles spiraled out of control. Yet beneath the debates and headlines lies a heartbreaking truth. Two women's lives were cut short. Meredith was just 33 years old, on the cusp of a promising new chapter. Jenner was 47, undone by heartbreak and despair. Their story has become a cautionary tale about love, betrayal, mental illness, and the devastating ripple effects of choices made in silence. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.